Welcome, everybody. I can tell you all really love the movie, right? Well, we've got our amazing producing team of this movie and the star, Anne Hathaway, Cathy Schulman, the one and only Gabrielle Union, and Jordana Mollick. And I am the moderator, Tatiana Siegel. I'm the executive editor of film and media at Variety. All right, so I bet everyone has so many questions like I do, but I want to know like the sort of genesis of this project. Who was on board first?
That would be me. My girlfriend, Robin Lee, who wrote the book, Idea View, she allowed me to read an advance copy. Of course, I fell in love. I then gave it to my husband to read, and he was equally as passionate about the book, but had a very different reaction. I was like, oh, this is a movie. So I begged my girlfriend, I'm like, can I please have the rights? I would love to produce this. And she agreed, and I realized that this could be really, really huge, and I need another really big powerhouse woman to help me with that. And that's when we brought on Cathy Schulman.
Yeah, and I had a similarly amazing reaction to the book, and was so happy that Gab had brought it my way. And said, yeah, let's do this. And my company, Well Entertainment, we develop, in-house. And so we went through the process of identifying our first writer and, kind of having all those discussions you have at the beginning about how to take a book to the screen, because there's such different mediums and it's not a literal kind of a process. And as you even see, have people in the audience read the book? Let's see. Yes! And you're still happy. This is a good sign. Because what we like to try to do is make sure that we capture the spirit of the book, but we allow it, to find its way for a more sort of external exploration as opposed to such an internal one. And so you begin that process with a screenplay. And developed the screenplay in-house, and the whole way through was developing it with this crazy hope that Anne Hathaway might star in it. And so we were sort of channeling. I don't know who we're talking about. We were sort of channeling her, and I remember, like I always say to my executives, that work at my company, just don't develop something for one person, because all it does is end in heartache when they pass. But we did it anyway, and then I sent it to Annie.
And I didn't see myself in it. That's amazing that you developed it for me, but I read it and I only saw Solène. And I just thought the script was in fantastic shape, and I don't know, I wanted it to exist. That's the best way to put it. I wanted to be in the audience of this movie. I thought it would be such an honor to be the woman on screen, and I was just so excited to develop it with these two brilliant women over here, and then we met. All of us met.
Yes, I was lucky to be the last person onto these women's baby, because I'm partnered with Michael Showalter, the director, and he had read. Give it up for Michael Showalter. He had gotten the script, and we read it, and saw something really, really special there. And as a single 40-ish-year-old mom in Silver Lake, I really, really related to seeing a woman like this who had such a full life. We came on board at that point.
Well, actually, and in between Annie and Michael and Jordana, there was Amazon, so we should add them to the crowd. We brought it we wanted to find the right home for it, and they decided, that they would take it on and be our partners and make the movie. And then we went to find, Michael and Jordana.
Well, that was my follow-up question was, did you hit resistance when you take this script out into, like, you have a major movie star with Anne, but was every male executive like, I don't see this?
Oh, no.
No, but I can say that mostly, it's funny, the executive who ultimately championed it at Amazon is a man. His name is Scott Foundas. But the rest of the bar, it was a bidding situation. We were lucky. A lot of people wanted it, and all the other executives were women. So it's kind of funny that the one male. How'd that happen exactly? Yeah, he ended up with it. But let me just say one other thing, because I think you make a point, though. I didn't feel it was something that we could sell before there was a script that was executed and there was a star. I don't think it would have sold in Hollywood just if we had tried to bring the book to those men in control for the most part. I don't think it would have worked, and therefore made the choice not to do it that way and not to expose it, which puts the risk back on us to develop it and spend the money and hope that somebody's going to actually, buy it.
Okay.
Can I jump in with something? Because I really do, seeing as how we're here and this is a producers panel and everything, I do have to throw the spotlight to Cathy, because developing something in-house is so hard, and it requires grit and commitment and devotion. And the reason that we're here is because Cathy Schulman kept it going through the internal development process.
Here, here.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So
You're welcome.
the film really delves into something that you almost never see on screen, on the big screen. You might see it on TV sometimes, but this idea of a woman who's 40 and is starting to really just like find herself and blossom at a time when some may think that her opportunities are narrowing. Why do you think that this has been such a hard kind of concept to get even onto the big screen?
That women have desires. So weird. I think people are very comfortable telling women who they should be, what they should be, how they should be doing it, and how much that should cost, and what size you should be as you do it, and anything outside of the male gaze, a very specific kind of male gaze, shouldn't exist because they can't imagine it. Meanwhile, we're starving we're starving to see ourselves. We're starving to see complex, nuanced stories about our lives. We're desperate for it, and every time one comes out, follow the money, it works. But somehow people get amnesia every single time. So, you can chalk that up to good old misogyny, sexism, all the isms. But this particular movie, and so many like it, they're too powerful to be held back. They're just too powerful to be held back. And to be up here with all of these women and knowing that we had a bidding war, knowing that the second Annie's name was attached, everyone wanted in. Whether she could see, the full picture, everyone knew what she can do. And they knew what we could all do and what we could all bring to the table, and we were never, we were never limited once we got past the initial BS.
Why do you suppose there has been this built-in double standard when it comes to older men? Everyone doesn't bat an eye if they're with a younger woman. And when the reverse happens, and thank God Demi and Ashton was before social media was really a thing, because it's such a double standard. But why do you suppose?
I think it lies in the same reason why we get asked personal questions instead of about what we do. I'm somebody who, I love to talk about my work. I work very hard. I've been working very hard for many, many years. It actually is a huge part of my identity. And I'm proud of it, and I've grown a lot, and I've been influenced by so many fabulous people. Many of them are women. And I do it for a sense of purpose and a sense of place. And I do it because I myself at times feel starving. And every single day we were on set of this movie, we just said, how do we feed the audience? And let's be clear, the audience is everyone, starting with women over 35. How do we put them at the front of the line? And so whatever forces cause underseen causes people to be underseen or overlooked. They're discriminatory, but they don't discriminate, but they do have a pattern. And the most significant step, I shouldn't say this, I'm not that important. What I think is something that could help is if we identify the patterns. And then once we identify the patterns, you collectively work together to create an alternative and see what people like. And it turns out people like this alternative, and maybe it should just be the way it is.
Still very brave, though, like to take a subject that, there's been this just weird double standard, and I don't understand it. But
I think it's because there's just this desire to compartmentalize women. You're supposed to be in a stage. You're a girl, then you're like a mom, and then you're like, eventually you're a grandma, but in between being a mom and a grandmother, you're a nothing or an other, and you don't exist. And like, there's all this like sort of times, and you can work, but you're not supposed to work and be a mom, and you're a mom, but you're not supposed to be a mom and be sexy, and you're sexy. So all these different kinds of things, right? And so because of this feeling that men are complex and can do anything at any time in their life, and women can't, we get this like double standard, right? That like you're not at the time in your life where you're supposed to be like being sexy with a younger man. Like you're past that moment because you're in a different compartment. I think that's what we have to break out of. That we're way more complex and we're fluid and we're not in any one thing at any one time. That's, I think, what's at the core.
And only we know that we have the ability to do it all at once, too. It's people telling you you can't make a movie when you have a child, you can't be a mother and be, an attractive force. You can't do it all at once, and we know that we can, so we have to work together to support each other.
Yeah, and then if we're looked at more complexly, then it won't seem so weird that we can do different things at different times.
And not so weird that we can do it with all different sorts of people.
Right.
Because like you said, it's really important. Scott was the one, he became our champion. So it's not just about us, it's about us doing it together.
Tell me a little bit about the casting of Nicholas. He's really... Did he audition like he auditioned for the boy band?
Well, yeah, so first of all, this was kind of an amazing thing that we did these gigantic hour-and-a-half-long interviews of our, auditions of our top candidates with Annie in the room. Not just in the room, participating through the entire hour and a half with each of them. And it was the most amazing thing. We met with a lot of young men, and we really found some terrific people. And the whole process was extraordinary. And then I'll just take it up until the moment they meet, and then I've got to turn it over to you. But so the night before they met, Michael had a conversation with Nick on the phone and called me after, and he's like, I think I found the guy. I don't know that Annie knows this because we didn't want to tell her because I would have tipped the whole audition. And I said, well, that's kind of weird. You just had a phone call. And he's like, I just felt it, like it was going to happen. And then sure enough, whatever it was, 10 o'clock on a Thursday morning, this guy was asked to come in and do quite a few things that are hard to do Thursday morning at 10 o'clock with Anne Hathaway. So now you tell the story.
So Thursday morning, 10 o'clock. We were all gathered, and I have to give a shout out to Bernie Telsey and all of his casting assistants and associates. It's an amazing place to be an actor, and to be vulnerable, which the casting process really is. And we really did see amazing actors for this who came in and did things that were we had a very, very tall order to fill. We asked people to dance improv. We asked people to sing. We asked them to read. We would go from the falling in love scene to the breakup scene. It was an intense process. And we met some wonderful people. And then the last person to come in, all 6 foot whatever of him, was Nick Galitzine.
He was really the last one?
He was the actual, it doesn't seem like it could be real. Like, no, you guys just agreed that backstage, right? No, he was the last one, and he walked in, and I burst out laughing because I thought we were going to get close, but a part of me was wondering if we were going to find everything. And he walked in, and it was Hayes Campbell. And the wonderful thing has been now that was in the summer of 2022. So I guess Nick and I have become friends over the course of 2 years. But initially I was just like, is Hayes Campbell going to show up? And he did. And he just looked the part, minus the hair. He had not, it doesn't matter. So
It wasn't a good hair
it was
day.
a leftover. It doesn't matter. I've walked in with terrible hair and it's not terrible.
I like that we can talk about him behind his back. Anyway, go ahead.
So anyway, and we started the scene, and I don't know. It was like acting with someone. It was like finding a dance partner, and you just kind of knew each other's instincts, but you were still really surprised, and you felt yourself really held but really free at the same time. And Nick's got a lot of talents, but one of them is listening, and he's wonderful to do a scene with because he can volley, but he can also receive, and it was and then he sang, and then he pulled out his guitar and he played, and then we did a dance improv, and we were giggling through it, like we were actually having fun, and that was what I realized at the end. It didn't feel like an hour and a half. It didn't feel like an hour and a half of an actor coming into an audition, and isn't that awful? It just felt like, oh, this is the team. We have the team. Our final teammate has arrived. And
It really comes through that joyfulness. Like even the scenes when you're like when he's trying the milk in the fridge and it's like it's past its
and just going back to something that I think Jordana said before, you know, one of the things that I loved about this movie, and it became kind of one of our North Stars in it, was this concept of, I've made a lot of feel-good movies in my time, and we wanted this to be a feel-everything movie. And yeah, it became, and that's, you know, that's a line from the book. So it just kind of that just became something that guided us. And one of the things that was so important about Nick on the team was that he was somebody you could just, like I said, a dance partner you could do anything with, and he was there, and he was only 28 at the time. I mean, 27 actually. He turned 28 when we were filming, and so we just felt very lucky to be there during the time of Nick Galitzine, and also now we know, I'm sorry, we'll stop talking eventually. And it was a really exciting moment to find him because it was so clear he was poised for stardom but hadn't quite crossed the threshold yet, so it was a really exciting time in his own journey to get to work with him.
One of the things that I really loved about this movie, and perhaps the audience too, is it's like a really sexy movie. And am I right? And like you really don't see a lot of sexy movies. It's like there's like a 5-year gap between the last one I can think of that I thought of it was like a sexy movie was A Star Is Born, and they do well, like at the box office. Like, you know, why are they not making? And I ask you, Cathy, because you've been making movies for a long time. Yeah. Why aren't we seeing?
You know, it seems to be about the decision makers, and I really don't want to throw shade on anybody because they're our partners and our friends, but there's been this, you know, sort of Hollywood for a long time seems to be sort of run by a bunch of men who have a lot of interest in comic books and
Thank goodness.
and comedies, I was going to say. And yeah, like I don't know, like if it's a culture of boy men or what's going on, but I'm going to really regret this in the morning. No, I really do think that for some reason there's a squeamishness that's existed with the decision makers, you know, about like doing this and whether or not audiences really want it. And I think you're right, though, that we keep proving time and time again that there is an audience who wants to feel that sense of connection and sensuality. And, you know, and I think in this case, you know, it's a very, I think one of the things that's great about Michael Showalter's directing is that he calls this a rom-com dram. And Yeah, it really is. And then Amazon calls it a romance-seeking movie, so it's a rom-com, romance seeker. I don't know. But I think what's interesting is that it does so many different things. Like each scene is approached in its own tone and in its own sort of genre. So we weren't trying to do a big, soppy, only romance, all the way through Harlequin kind of thing. And the hardest part was communicating that to the buyers, that what we were trying to do was to dip in and out of it. And I think that's what makes it appealing. Like, you don't feel like, oh, I shouldn't be watching this, or you don't have to be squeamish about it, because you can also laugh, or you can have solid drama, joy, comedy, just more mixed in.
And the book was sexy as hell. Yeah. I mean, there was no way that we could do this without all of it. Yeah. And, I mean, you saw it. Did you like it? Were you not hesitate?
And even the men are smiling out there. See, it wasn't so hard, was it? No.
Yeah, and Jordana, do you have any thoughts?
I mean,
on this,
I think that
product?
so much of it also with this movie specifically comes from character. And so there's nothing like gratuitous. It's like a true, authentic sensuality and as Anne sometimes says, a blooming of this character. And I think that it makes people connect with it in a different way, which is important.
Yeah. Did the screenplay change much from the first time you read it until you saw, what we just saw?
Yes, well, I don't know that it changed so much as it developed. It just found itself, and it was really exciting once Michael and Jordana got involved, because that was when we really could. We knew the structure was there. We were able to make some of the really big choices and anchor them, and then the process of tailoring it to Nick and me, the process of tailoring it to Michael, and then bringing the book back into it in a really, really significant way. That was when it happened.
It was really Annie who, helped us get sexier in the final rewrite. When, she kept rereading the book and finding passages and things that, could really help inform that, and for us to just dive in and let it be. And we really, that happened in the last draft, that we really went for it. Especially the New York scene, the New York hotel room scene.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. That was the last.
I'm a fan of the book. I'm a fan of the book, and I just, like I said earlier, I wanted to be in the audience of this movie as much as I wanted to be Solenn. Who wouldn't want to be Solenn? I was so lucky. But I don't know how else to say it. It was time, and we deserve it. And like I said, I'm sorry to sound like a broken record, but it all seemed to be so very rooted in intelligence. So I just felt like there was an opportunity to feel everything the way an intelligent character, an intelligent relationship, an intelligent instinct allows you to have depth. And the idea that you could have depth and fun at the same time while being sexy, it was so enticing. Right? And I don't just want to make it about, why don't we make movies like this? It's hard to find a movie like this, whether you're a man or you're a woman or you're whatever age you are. It is hard to find. Oh my God, I'm going to say it. It's hard to find a movie with soul. And so, and Robin gave us an amazing launch pad to do just that. And yeah.
What were some of the things that were discarded from Solene's arc?
When I met her, her name was Sophie, and her name had been changed to Sophie, and I said, if she could please be Solenn, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Well, I think the first thing that we felt we needed to actually change from the book was to age up the daughter, because it was really important to us that Solenn had more of a sounding board, somebody she could really speak to. And also, if we were going to try to make a movie about who you should be as you grow as a woman and all the different possible doors you can open at any time, it was fun to have somebody just on the verge of womanhood versus such a young, child. So that was one of the things we kind of changed,
Silver Lake.
Yeah.
changing it from Century City to Silver Lake felt like a pretty significant choice. And also, to me, that was a way that the book was able to have its own identity and the movie was able to have its own identity because they were neighboring locations but not exactly the same.
Right. And Silver Lake actually makes it have, I don't know if many of the people in the audience have been to Silver Lake, but it's kind of, it's sort of like a hipster.
That one.
Silver Lake. It's like a very hipster kind of neighborhood that's like perfect for an art gallery, but also like perfect for the paparazzi to just sort of like, you know, come and descend.
It has a fascinating history.
Yeah. And that reservoir and
Well, you'll be surprised to know that we shot all of that in Atlanta. we never went to Silver Lake or Los Angeles.
Yes, producers, yes.
I was actually surprised that a lot of the shooting was in Georgia.
Tax breaks.
That's all of it. Not all.
That was like movie magic. Like
All, yeah. No, that's actually a real call out to Justin Ball, our visual effects supervisor, who I've actually been working with for years now. And I was like, you know, he was tasked with like turning, you know, Atlanta into Silver Lake, which is not that easy, but that's where certain ideas, like we found a reservoir in Atlanta that we could work with where we could shoot plates of, we actually didn't even shoot them, we borrowed them, but plates of we couldn't even afford our own, that's pretty funny. We're so rinky-dink. Anyway, no, but we used plates of the Silver Lake, you know, reservoir, and then we could merge them with visual effects, you know, into that particular reservoir. And then we suggested that he drop the Vista Theater smack in the middle of a town in Atlanta to make it feel like it was actually, you know, we were in Silver Lake. So things like that. They're just like little landmarks.
Given how the audiences are responding so enthusiastically, not just this audience, but everyone who's seen the movie so far, do you predict that there will be sort of a resurgence of this genre, the romance genre, which has been kind of neglected, or the sexy genre, or rom-com, whatever?
Oh, please, I hope so.
Yes.
You know, I being inspired by Robin's book and knowing that Soline's story was a very specific story, I was like, well, I want in. I live this. Yeah. You know, I've got a younger man with a big life. And... Okay. So while we were in development over here, I was like, Tia Williams, you've got a book called The Perfect Find. Let's do this simultaneously. So if you are also looking for another sexy movie, you will see half a boob, part of my butt, a lot of oral ideas. Oral ideas. But there are...
What do you mean?
Well... Specifically,
sorry, I just landed. What?
There's a scene on a kitchen island where the young man is just going to town down there.
He's eating never mind.
Yes, he's doing that too. He's doing all the things for this older gal to thoroughly enjoy when she thought life was over. But yes, there's more. And when we reached #1 in Croatia, I said, well, damn. You know, people want it. People want more. And whether it's Soline or, you know, my character in the Perfect Find, it's okay for a woman to be fully in charge of her sexual agency in a consenting, beautiful, loving, non-groomy sort of way. Let's talk about it.
And I think it's what Cathy said, too. It's the decision makers, you know? And, like, it's all about numbers and people watching it, and you hope that people see it and that allows more to get made, because we can shout out from the rooftops that we want to keep seeing these movies, and it doesn't always make a difference, you know, with the decision makers.
Something that I hope we accomplished in this movie is that we showed that there's a certain, I think we captured an intensity of feeling. We did capture and portray something that is sensual and sexy. We did show a woman who had a full life, and it doesn't appear that it scared anyone. And I think when I'm thinking about the questions you're asking, I think potentially one of the connecting threads is people are scared of the unknown, and because we haven't seen this, people assume that you give us a little bit of power and who knows what could happen. And it's like, well, maybe we'll be kind and interesting, and maybe we'll empower each other, and maybe the world will, I don't know, become, give me a word. Give me an idea.
More opening? There we go.
Wait, enter your word here. Everyone at the same time, whatever your word. Maybe the world will be
Peaceful.
go. Maybe. And so I'm just really happy that we've been able to create something that shows a powerful woman. And you should not cross her, but that doesn't mean that you should be afraid of her. You know?
Yeah. I love how you played Celine, because she's very restrained in so many moments where, like, I would believe the natural instinct would be like to be like kind of, you know, like. And I'm curious, like, how did you prepare for the role?
Oh man, that's a great question. The book was a huge help in terms of just having, a sacred text to return to and to kind of fuse with. And then, I've lived a life in which my trust has been messed with, unfortunately, but it's not unique. That's part of being here. And so I know what it takes to try to heal that. And that was kind of one of my ways in from her, because she thought that she had this thing that was real. And she felt when the rug got pulled out from under her, it wasn't just, oh, that's embarrassing. It's, what did I believe? And then when we added the element of, why was I nice about it? Why in that moment did I choose to be a grown-up? Did I choose a certain obligation to being a bigger person, rather than in being honest with myself, interrogating my feelings and releasing them? Why didn't I do that? And that question that she asks, she's been sitting on top of for 3 years. That's a lot, you know? And in the beginning of the movie where it says, I'm gonna go and process the last 20 years, she needs to do that. And I love that she actually finds a relationship with someone who has the sensitivity and the groundedness and the strength of character and the intelligence to be a partner for her while she explores all of those things. And so that she's able to heal herself, but she's able to do it in this new relationship grounded in love.
I'm going to ask everybody on the panel, what was your favorite scene in the movie, or the most like emotionally, the scene that really sparked the most emotions for you? Let's start with you, Jordana.
I love Coachella. I loved it. I just went to my first Coachella with my daughter. I tried to relive Solen's journey. Did not meet a pop star. Tried to wander into some trailers, but that moment specifically in the trailer, that meet cute, is like, to me, as a lover of rom-com dramas, and as a lover of classic movies, that is like a classic meet cute that I just eat up. So that was my favorite.
Doesn't get cuter.
Mine is when Celine goes on vacation with the group, with the crew, the young crew. And she's just so not 12. And, you know, she comes with her things because she's worried about sun protection and all the sorts. And I love it because it reminds me of when I vacation with some of my husband's friends. And yeah. So I'm like, so no one's heard of Jefferson Airport? No, oh, it's fine. Playing words with friends, don't mind me.
Oh, my favorite. I think actually it's a very small moment, but it's the moment after Hayes has come back to Solen's house, and they've had this sort of final goodbye, and he says she says 5 years is too long, and he says, you know, let's see about that. But it's actually the moment when, I guess, when Annie goes from this crazy. Like, he walks out the door and she goes in this moment from like, I can't believe, like the most misery you've ever seen to a smile of acceptance. And I guess for me, that's like my favorite moment in the movie because it like brings me from laughter, like from tears to laughter. And that's like when I really feel we hit it. Yeah, that's my favorite moment in the movie. Yeah.
I have to give credit where credit's due. It was inspired by Diane Lane in Unfaith. Is it called Unfaithful?
Yeah.
Yeah. Remember when she's on the train?
Yeah.
That scene. And it was her idea. It was her idea. She went to the director and she said, I'd like to be thinking about the afternoon and just be reliving it. I'd like to do it like that. And he did, and he said, trusted her and said yes. And so she did it. And I just thought, what am I going to do with this scene? And I just thought, what if she just lets herself feel the relationship? Like, what if she just lets herself feel and she doesn't know what's about to happen, but it's just about being present in the gratitude and the pain simultaneously.
And it's also a feel everything moment. I mean, that was the theme, right? And so for me, that was like when the movie, I remember sitting in the editing room and being like, this is where it works, you know?
So my favorite, I love Dance Hall Days.
Yeah.
It was just a crazy,
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Thank you. That was one. That was like amazing, and just in terms of like, I can't believe we're doing this. And it was actually the first thing that Michael added to the script.
Yeah.
Was all of us. He came on board. We were so thrilled, and then the new script came out, and that was the first scene that he added. Was they have to be in the hotel room. They have to be dancing. It has to be this song
With the chicken nuggets.
with the chicken nuggets. Chicken nuggets were there the whole time. And then, yeah, I'm gonna share it. The scene that means the most to me when I look back on the experience was, I don't like to talk about this part, but I got really tired when I made this movie. It was a lot of, I don't, I'm so lucky to get to do what I do, but it was hard, it was work. And I wasn't in the best health by the end of it. And I was really and as you can see, it was just a lot, very emotional, et cetera, et cetera. And we had to do the final scene. And I didn't know if I had it. Like, I really didn't know if I could go there, and I didn't know how I was going to do it. And I turned to Michael, and I turned to Nick, and I told them how I was feeling. And Michael said, what do you need? And I said, oh man, I just need a wave. I don't know, I just need a wave. And he said, I got you. And Nick guided me to the door, and we got into position, and Michael pressed play on a song because he knows how much I love music. And Nick just carried me to the scene and just held me, and I just thought, just don't interrupt this moment, just stay in it, just stay in it. You've been given such a gift with these two unbelievably sensitive, caring partners. Please just let whatever's happening happen. And we got it, and Michael said, we got it, go home. And the way they held me in that moment, that's why it became my favorite scene. Because I didn't know if I could hold myself, but they held me, and I had partners and friends.
That's beautiful. And the scene that you mentioned, Gabrielle, that was the scene that went also, it turned into the most heartbreaking scene for Celine when these groupie girls are humiliating her. And then it turns into Hayes's humiliation also. It's such an interesting way how it did that. And I thought that was really profound. I think that I am supposed to now take questions from the audience, and I bet you guys have a lot of questions, so here they come. Okay. There are not many 40-plus romantic lead roles for women. Do you think a movie, something like this will...
Do you think a movie like this will create more opportunities given the excitement and interest the story has had?
From Megan.
From Megan.
Thank you, Megan.
Let's hope so. Listen, they respond to data, they respond to numbers, and based on the enthusiasm that we're seeing in this theater and theaters across the country, I think we have a pretty good shot at seeing a lot more of this.
Yeah.
Also, this is my own personal feeling about the movie, but we all worked, not even though it was a rom-com, it is a rom-com and it's a work of art. That's how we approached it. And I believe those two things are not mutually exclusive. And the amount of care and craft that was put into this movie was of as high a level as any film I've ever worked on. And I do think that art begets art. So I'm excited to see the art that happens because audiences and artists in the audiences have seen this film and connected, and it makes them want to tell their own kind of story, and they'll expand the range of it because it won't just be us; it's got to be everybody, and I'm just excited to see what happens next.
And just to add, I want to just a moment for the actresses that are on this stage right now, because that's also going to change what we're watching for women that are 40 and above. I would watch either of you read a phone book. And so I feel like we're really lucky as a woman that is 40 to have these actresses that we want to see live life.
Maria asks a great question. I wish I had asked this. How did you choose the music for the film, especially the music in the car, which is a fun scene?
Oh, I mean,
Do you mean the
sound,
the August Moon music or the soundtrack?
Fiona Apple,
I assume
all of it.
Yeah, all of it.
Well, let me take the August Moon part first, and then we can talk about all the cues. But like the August Moon thing, so this was kind of amazing. We had to obviously create a boy band. No easy thing. But luckily I knew this man named Savan Kotecha. Do you guys know who he is? And if you know, he obviously wrote many of One Direction's hits, and he's a he's a hit maker today. And you know, he's got current hits like God. He's got one with The Weeknd and two with Ariana Grande and Lizzo and Ed Sheeran. And in this kind of miraculous moment, Amazon let us buy 5 songs by Savan Kotecha sight unseen for a lot of money, and and I actually called him and said, you have to make 5 hits and you can't screw up. And then furthermore, we have to build a boy band. Ha, that's pretty funny. So what we did is we did it the way they really do it, because he had been part of building One Direction, and so he sort of knew how it was done. And it's based, you know, it's a casting process that had to do, where we were collaborating between the casting directors, a very top choreographer, her name is Danny Vitale, and Savan creating the music, and all the groups were casting it together and doing all of the sort of pre-records to figure out who had which voices. And in the end, only one person actually sang in the movie, and it's Nick. And we were very lucky that he was a singer to begin with. And so we built the sound based on the idea that it needed to have like a reference back to those older boy bands, but it also had to be real for today, and you had to believe that they were a superstar band. And so it was kind of a tall order. And but I don't know if you know this already, but the songs have been coming out, and 2 of them have been already top Spotify. And then crazily, the band got a record deal. But they don't exist. But it's weird. But they have a record coming out on Sony Arista too. So that's kind of funny. It's like the Monkees or something.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah, and we gave Savan basically like 5 different periods that the relationship was going to go through, and the script, which became sort of the thing he used to figure out how to write the songs and the lyrics so that they fit. And worked that process for a long time before the actors came in. And once we had that and we knew what the August Moon music was going to be, then we could work with our music supervisor to figure out what the soundtrack of the film would be, which is like the needle drops. And that's a much more a process of really getting to know the scenes as you work through them.
The script was something that we all contributed to, everyone. I will claim the line, aggressively talented female singer-songwriters. That was me. And it's because I've always loved them. And so I was thrilled when St. Vincent and Fiona Apple, who was one of my first musical loves.
Like when you were in college, like you're like
No, I was in middle school. No, wait a minute, no. When the Pawn came out when I was 16, I asked for it for my 16th birthday. Now I remember. It was the CD that I got for my 16th birthday. And I know that album is tattooed on my soul. So that it showed up in the film was just so incredibly meaningful. And, you know, I've long held this belief from a storytelling belief, an actress belief, and I guess the music that I like too, that people put way too much emphasis on being likable. And I don't actually think likable is as important as lovable and interesting. And so anyway, I found this music to be, the music, especially the female singer-songwriters and the cues, I'm learning, the cues, there was just something about them that's just so great and unapologetic. So I was just really excited that there's different types of music in the movie, because it would be terrible if we all only liked one thing.
Yeah, it was like the painting, everything visually, everything.
Well, and the composer had to then take those two things and put them together, right? So the composer's music is what's filtering through between those cues and those songs from August Moon, and he did an amazing job too, Sid. Yeah. So, and he had to make it all sort of end up in one tapestry, because it's hard to do like the singer-songwriter female things with the pop, thing and not make it seem ridiculous. So we had to like sew it all together.
I don't know who's best to answer this, maybe you, Jordana, because you would have insight into Michael's thinking. This is from Lana, who's from Montreal and has lovely handwriting. How did you choose the painting Unclose Me? A lot of the colors in the film seem to reflect the painting. Was that always planned? Thank you, loved it.
Annie.
So the artist of Unclose Me is Sarah Ann Johnson, and she's an amazing artist that my husband and I were familiar with before the film came into our lives. And when we were searching for Unclose Me, and I have to shout out Amy Williams, our production designer, who did an unbelievable job. She found so many incredible, incredible pieces of art for Solen's gallery. And we were curious about what Unclose Me would be. It wasn't from the art that she brought us. And again, it's kind of like the way Century City and Silver Lake were each their own thing in the books. Unclose Me is described as this very ethereal, almost ghostly image of a woman who's both coming into focus and fading at the same time, and it's absolutely gorgeous.
That's a word, coming into, say that again, say that again.
Coming into focus and fading at the same time. And it felt like the movie wanted to have it wanted to express something else, a certain vibrancy, the inner life of something that's incredibly natural. And I remembered seeing that painting, and so I showed it to Amy, who showed it to Michael, and then it became the painting. And one night, Michael and I, it was a late shoot, it was a night shoot, and we were sitting there and we were kind of discussing the week's work ahead, and which was going to include a lot of scenes between Solen and Hayes being intimate in hotel rooms in Europe, and we were talking about how we were going to shoot them. And we were discussing the lighting, and we started to talk about the painting as well, and we started talking about, well, what if the lighting reflected the painting, and then that'll play into the end. But the lighting cues became Michael Showalter's beautiful, inspired idea. And when we walked into that, I mentioned before about how he played the song for me, and it gave me the wave that I needed. But he also and Jim Frona, our cinematographer, created this incredible lighting design. And somehow it was this immersive experience of being inside feelings, just by changing this lighting cue and just by knowing these people so well. And of course, with an assist from Tom York, because it was a Radiohead song.
I mean, it's kind of funny. We used, for anyone who knows lighting a little bit, we used gels, which nobody really does anymore. But it was literally like colored gels that were changing so that they were in like an environment where it was green and blue and red, and you don't really do that anymore. You colorize afterwards. You don't really do gels, and so, but it made for this atmosphere that was kind of like intense, like for all of us. So you walked on that set and like something really intense was happening there with those colors, yeah.
And then you see all the colors on Annie's face, like, and that's what that scene, that favorite scene is. It's that painting, you know?
Yeah, like reflecting, yeah.
So I think, to answer the question, we were all just really open. And it was important that, and it's one of the great things about working with Michael is you bring him ideas and usually his response is, great. And so it became this collaborative process where you would have an idea, you would bring it, you would work it out, but we really were, I can't stress it enough, the team on this one, Jackie DiMatteo, our costume designer, I mentioned Amy already, I mean, it was just, everybody was, and our crew was unbelievable. I'm blanking on his last name.
Yeah, John Tagliamia.
Oh my gosh, our first, he was just, it was such a group effort. It was such a team every step of the way. Everybody contributed to it, and it became this evolving thing, which meant that we were able to get to know the characters and the film as we were making it. And anyway, it's not unique to my entire career, but it's so exciting when you find one of those.
This is a fun question, and we can all answer it. Who was your real-life Hayes Campbell growing up? Let's start with you and then go to...
Can we start on the other side? I have to think about it first.
Eddie Vedder.
Right? Eddie Vedder.
Not Eddie Vedder. Ralph Tresvant. Thank you. It's 3 people back.
I'm gonna go with the other side of Eddie Vedder and say it was Kurt Cobain.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I like those Oasis guys. I forget which one of the brothers, but...
Can I do something? You know how everybody said their word before? Everybody say your boy at the same time. 1, 2, 3.
I heard a lot of Harry Styles.
Because they're younger than us. If we had to ask now, it'd be easy.
I love the Eddie Vedder.
I mean, Pearl Jam's not a boy. I know the difference, but that was my guy. You know? Yeah.
That's funny. We never talked about that before then.
Things that come up on panels. Did you have a poster, or I need more information here? Okay, so I think that we have time for one more question, and let's see, we've kind of gone through. Okay, Lacey is asking, how did you go about finding a strong male lead that supports and lifts up rather than overshadows a female driving the story? I mean, like you've answered it in different ways, but I like this idea of this giving you the room to be like the star and the protagonist, and even though he's playing a star, it's kind of a fun dynamic.
How did we? The how of it's an interesting.
I mean, I guess we were just not drawn to a very typical alpha male type. We went for somebody more, like he's
Sensitive.
more like I think he's both, you know, like maybe, I don't know how to answer that.
There's a part of the book that I think was really important in terms of the conversation around Hayes, which was he was a man who took pleasure from giving pleasure.
Yeah.
And
In many ways.
actually, that's definitely, and so and I find that to be very attractive, the concept and the reality, and so anyway, so I just feel like when you have that dynamic, the how of it becomes less mechanical and less prescriptive and more effortless and instinctive, because when you have someone who innately thinks about someone else, it creates room for more people than just themselves.
Yeah, he seemed like a very good listener.
Thank you, everybody.
Yeah. Didn't he? From the beginning, like he was a good listener. Like as a person, as an actor, as a character, like
Yeah.
he wasn't just pushing all the time.
I also think Hayes, you know, Nick and I were talking about this. We were talking about how Solène has a gallery, and how she's used to looking for art, and how she would see an artist and see someone who was struggling to own that part of themselves, and how she would make space for him as well, and how important it is, because there's a part of himself, you know, the whole scene where he's like, I'm so scared that people think that I'm a joke, and she makes space for his artistry. So it's a relationship about people making space for each other.
Yeah,
You know?
absolutely. This has been so much fun. I love talking about it. I have to remind everybody, tell all your friends that you can see this movie on Amazon Prime. And I guess also if you live in New York or LA, you could see it in a movie theater too, but everyone's going to be able to see it on Amazon Prime. So thank you all for coming. Thanks for the great questions.
Thank you guys.